Welcome to this first tutorial on prepping your end of edit for Resolve and Pro Tools. I'm Mark Adams, welcome. So we are on a Mac and we're going to look at Premiere Pro. Here we go. We can see on the timeline we've got a sequence here. This sequence is built up of multiple things. So let's have a quick peek. We have some audio, we have one video layer, we have another video layer with other shots on video layer 2. We have a little key going on here, a little graphic, and some name straps too. Okay, so in order to get this to Resolve, and in order to get this to Pro Tools, we need to do a few things. We need to prep this in the right way. This is what we call in the industry an end of edit. Okay, so an end of edit consists of prepping your sequence for the grade and prepping your sequence for Pro Tools. Okay, so this is the way that I would start doing it. Okay, so we have our sequence marked in and marked out. The first thing we need to do is to make sure that our Pro Tools mixer or our grader has a Bitsy QuickTime guide of this sequence. What's a Bitsy QuickTime guide? Well, I'll show you. So the first thing we need to do is find the sequence here, File, Export, Media. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a QuickTime file, just a H.264 version, that's fine. Okay, we want to choose the location. I'm just going to whiz and choose the location and Bitsy QuickTime there. Save. I'm happy with it being H.264 preset, high bit rate, that's fine. But the one thing we need to do, one thing we need to select in effects down here, there's various menus here. In effects, we need to go and find timecode overlay. There we go. This is what we want on screen. Now, why would your mixer or why would your grader want that? Because when they're matching this QuickTime guide up to their sequence, not only can they check the clips are all in sync, they can actually check the timecode is in sync to their timeline. It's a really useful thing to have. Not only that, when the client's watching it, there's a timecode there too for them to add any changes they want to or mark that timecode down. So once we've done that, we've got the location, we've got the codec, and export. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this export now. Great. So we've got that ready for the guide for the grade, and we can use the same file for the guide for Pro Tools. Okay. So next thing we need to do is let's give Pro Tools what we need. Okay. Go to the same sequence again. File, export, AF. Now in here, there's a few options. We can mix down the video. I don't need to because we've just exported a Bitsy QuickTime. Breakout to mono, leave that enabled. Pro Tools works much better with mono files going into it. Don't need to render any effects. The sample rate 48K. Important, make sure we're on 24 here. Embed the audio. What does that mean? Well, the audio media is going to be embedded into the one file that is created. So you just got one file that is metadata and actually the weight of the file. Format, yep. Trim audio files. We've got two options here. We can copy everything. So whatever's in this sequence, whatever that clip is there, that clip there, let's say that came from a clip that was a shot that was an hour long. Well, it would take the whole thing. It would take the whole hour. We don't want that. So it's sometimes much better to consolidate. So we're going to trim the audio files here, okay? And I'm actually going to trim them to 150 frames either side, okay? So on one side of the cut, it'll add 150 frames prior, and to the end of the shot, it'll add 150 frames, okay? So 300 frames in total added to the clip. Click OK. Choose your location. Okay, A for the dub, go. Let's let that export. Slightly quicker, that's good. Some notes here. Yeah. Right, so we have now our requirements for Pro Tools. But we're not quite there yet with the requirements for the grade with Resolve, okay? So let's have a look at the sequence. Now, let's get a little bit more real estate on screen here. Okay, so we've got a few things here. Now we've got clips, we've got graphics, we've got end cards. There are things that Resolve doesn't want, okay? It doesn't want. You can leave them in there, but I just find it confusing and sometimes it can cause problems. So what I like to do is prep the sequence. So here's my sequence here, you can see it there. I'm now going to duplicate that sequence. Okay, and we're going to call it prep for grade. Open it up. So we now got a safety. There's our safety sequence. So let's just color that. I like to label it red. Well, not red in here. Of course, rose. It'd be rose. Let's label it rose. So that's our safety sequence. Okay, if anything happens, we can go back to it. Always duplicate. Never work on the sequence all the way through because you'll just have a problem. Okay, something will go wrong. At least we can go back now if there's a problem. Go back to the offline picture log. Let's have a look at this one for the grade. Okay, so what is it I want to try and do? Well, what I want to try and do is separate out this sequence here. Okay. I want to lift some of these things out, make them a little bit more obvious. Okay, so I'm going to select all the graphics here, and I'm actually now going to move them up. I'm going to get them out of the way. Notice I'm not moving them in the timeline, I'm just moving them up. Okay, good. We've lifted them out of the way now, which is quite good, which is quite nice. Okay, what else? Well, let's have a little look at the middle of the timeline. What we've got is video layer 1, and we've got some clips sitting on top as well. So whatever's underneath here is sort of irrelevant, really. Now, if we exported this to Resolve, all of this media underneath would go through. I don't want that. It just gets a bit confusing. So let's tidy up. Any grader worth their salt wants a nice, crisp, clean timeline, okay? Everything on video layer 1, if they can get it. Not unless there's some sort of composite effect on video layer 2 or 3. So I'm just going to highlight these two clips here, and then I'm going to drop them down. You can see that now they've cut into video layer 1. Good. Happy with that. Now I'm going to go over, look at this section. You can see this section is a little bit easier. And we can see that there's no effects going on there. It's a bit of a stabilization, but that's fine. Highlight the lot and drag them down. Don't move them in duration. Okay, good. Let's go along. Here we go again. 4 more shots. Highlight and write them down. See, they're cutting in to the timeline. Good, that's what I want. Okay, so now we have our raised effects and we have our one video layer ready for the grade. So I'm now going to duplicate that because I'm quite happy with it at that stage, okay? You can see in my time I'm going to have a few things. I'm going to duplicate for the grade now. I'm going to call this XML because it's going to be an XML. Okay, so open this sequence up. So if you see what I'm doing here, we can step back at each stage, okay? Don't get lost in it. You can step back. Now this sequence will be open up and we can start removing things now. Get some more real estate on screen. Okay, we've got our graphics here. Now, I don't want that to go. I don't want the graphics. So I'm just gonna lock, okay, video layer 1. I'm gonna highlight everything and delete because I don't need it. The reason I've locked it is because just in case I happen to pick up a clip by accident that was linked, okay? Unlock it, everything's there. And also, I actually don't want any of the audio to go through. I don't need it. Click on the lock again, highlight all, and delete. Good. Ready to go. Now we have one clean sequence, just video in, okay? There is one graphic at the top there, but that's fine. I'll leave that one in. We've got a couple of effects. We've got some analyzing the background. That's restabilize. That'll be interesting to see whether that goes through to Resolve. It won't, because obviously Resolve doesn't have the equivalent stabilization, has a different one. So it'll probably be ignored by Resolve. So click on the sequence, file, export, and we're looking for Final Cut Pro XML. So XMLs are in part sort of similar to AAFs. These are translation files. These are helping us get one sequence from one application to another. This is the only way that we can do it. We use the AF for Pro Tools, but the XML for Resolve. Now, if you're in Avid, You'd of course use an AAF as well, but an XML I find a much more reliable translation file. And of course, Avid doesn't give you that option. Okay, now we want to find, okay, so let's now make a new folder. We call it XML for grade. Done. Click save, and it's now going to export. Don't need to worry about that. And we're ready to rock and roll. We're ready to go. All we need to do now is open up Resolve, import this, and open up Pro Tools and import 2. But we'll leave that for the next video. Okay, bye.